students, today we are going to look at the story Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom, which is written by Nelson Rohilala Mandela. Now, actually, इसमें एक term यूज़ हुआ है, a term that is used as apartheid. Apartheid means differentiation between the people on the basis of their race. कोई गोरा है, कोई काला है, so how to differentiate the people on that basis. That was a main problem in Africa, due to which a long struggle had to be done by Nelson Mandela in order to make the black people also gain equal rights as the white people used to have. He had spent 30 years of his life in jail, in prison, as he had spent his entire life fighting against apartheid. But in 1994, when democratic elections were held, then finally he became the first president of South Africa, the first black president of the new nation. So this is actually a autobiography of Nelson Mandela, as if he has written this entire story. So let's see. 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. Now, here the date has been given as 10th May. When the day was bright and clear, Nelson Mandela was quite excited and happy. He was besieged. Besieged means surrounded by many high class people who were coming to pay him visit, and also they were paying him respect before the inauguration. The inauguration ceremony had to be done, and that inauguration ceremony was the you can say the largest ever ceremony to be done, as it had a large number of gathering of the people, as international leaders from all over the countries were about to gather there. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by Union Buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Now, amphitheatre is, as it is given, it is a building without any roof. It's a बहुत बड़ा hall हो, but it had no roof at the top, and there were many rows of seats lined one after the other. Now here they are saying that the ceremony was very, you can say, splendid, and for decades, means for about 10 years, the whites had been having the highest control, and they used to gather over here in this ceremony, and the white had been the supremacy. They were having the supremacy all over the world. But now, this day, when he was seeing on 10th May, he was seeing that large number of rainbow colored people were there from different countries of the world. They were all seated in those rows. That means many nations had gathered over there in order to celebrate the first democratic non-racial government. Non-racial जिसमें कोई कास्ट सिस्टम का कोई भी डिफ्रेंसिएशन ना हो, no apartheid, nothing of that sort. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. De Klerk was first sworn in as second deputy president. Now that was the autumn day when Nelson Mandela told that he was accompanied by his lovely daughter Zenani, and on the podium is a stage, a high stage on which any person can stand, and then if they want to give a speech. Now here the first person who was taken, who was standing on the podium and had to take oath, was Mr. De Klerk, who was appointed as the second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as a first deputy president. So Thabo Mbeki was sworn as a first deputy president. So there were two deputy presidents, the second and the first one. The second was D. Clark, and the first one was Thabo Mbeki. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the Constitution and to devote myself to the well being of the Republic and its people. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said, now, here, when Mr. Nelson Mandela's turn came, he immediately stood on the podium and he took an oath that he would devote himself to the well being of this republic. He was giving some speech. Let's see that speech. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to the newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. Now, the first para that he spoke in his speech was that today, all of you who are present over here, in your presence, let's take an oath that now we have to celebrate and you can say rejoice this newborn liberty, because it was a too long struggle which we had been doing, and it was an experience of an extraordinary human disaster, because the whites, they had always differentiated the black people. They didn't you can say consider them to be human beings. So it was just a human disaster which he is speaking about. So he said that out of such a disaster, now we have to take a pledge that we are going to create a good humanity, a society of a good humanity, of which all of us will be proud. We who are outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. So he says that हमें तो पहले कानून की नज़रों में भी नहीं समझा जाता था. So outlaws means that because of the political apartheid, they were not given any equal rights, legal rights were not given. So he said that we as black community who were not given the equal rights have now been given a rare privilege to speak in front of all the nations of the world. We thank all our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. So he says that I am thanking all of the distinguished guests who have appeared here and are supporting us so much that they are cooperating with the people of our country, and because since it is a great victory of justice, we have been given justice this time, and peace and human dignity has been given to us. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. So he said that at last now we have been given equal political rights also, and we are now taking oath. Pledge means kasam khana. So we are taking a pledge that we after being liberated, we are going to even struggle more harder. We are going to fight for the liberation of all our people from the bondage of poverty, slavery, deprivation, suffering. We have to still work, or you can say we have to still go a long way in order to liberate all our people from such type of sufferings like deprivation, poverty, slavery, gender, other type of discrimination. All such discriminations we have to just liberate our people from. Never, never, never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by other. So he says that I will take good care that after this never will on this land any person suffer with any type of discrimination. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. So he says that मैं कभी ये सूरज डूबने नहीं दूंगा जो आज ह्यूमन ग्लोरी के ऊपर चमक रहा है. So let freedom reign, God bless Africa. So he says that अभी आज़ादी का ही परचम फहराने दीजिए and God bless Africa. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union buildings. After some time, what happened? All the jets, they were flying all over their heads as if paying respect. The South African jets, helicopters, troop carriers, all were passing all over their heads over the Union buildings. So it was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy. So actually it was not a symbol, not only a symbol that yes, the military troops are ready, they are strong, they are well prepared, but it was also a symbol of the loyalty of the military towards this type of democracy in which there will be no racial discrimination, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected, because this time Nelson Mandela was elected fairly, freely. There was no oppression, nothing of any type of discrimination. Only moments before, the highest generals of South Africa Defence Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. Because before these planes and jets were flying over, a few moments before, on the podium, some South African defense forces and policemen, they had their medals on their chests. They all had pledged that we would remain loyal to this type of democracy. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before, they would not have saluted but arrested me. So Nelson Mandela said that I knew that a few years before, when I was not given that much right and my struggle for apartheid was going on, these same people would have arrested me instead of saluting me. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. And then, when these jets were flying on, so a pattern of V shape was formed with which type of colors? Black, red, green, blue, and gold, which was actually the color that was on South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our own two national anthems and the vision of white singing Kosi Sikelele I Africa and black singing D Stem, the old anthem of the Republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. Okay. Now here on this day, what happened? Two national anthems were sung by the people. The whites, they were singing the anthem of the Africans. What was there? Kosi Sikele I Africa. And the blacks, they were singing the anthem D Stem. And both of them were not having any type of discrimination or any type of objection that why I am singing the African national anthem and why I am singing the white national anthem. Although both of the groups, they did not know the lyrics properly, but at one time these people used to despise these anthems before, and now this time they pledged that we would learn all the lyrics this time and sing with you. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up the differences and erected a system of racial denomination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. So when this day of inauguration occurred, he was thinking about some years back. So he was overwhelmed and he was quite, you can say, very much heartily touched, deeply touched by heart by the sense of history, because when he was not even born, before his birth, an Anglo Boer War had occurred in which the white people had done so much of discrimination with the black people of the Africa. They erected a system of racial discrimination. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever known. Now, the structure that these white skinned people had created, that was the worst ever inhuman behavior towards the black people that ever any country of the world had experienced. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own eighth decade as a man, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples regardless of color of their skin. Now, that was the initial part of the 20th century when the whites had discriminated. So, in the last decade of the 20th century, that means the last 10 years of the 20th century, and he was himself 8 decade means around 80 years of age. So the system had quite overturned. Now everything was crystal clear, every human being was given equal rights, and there was no discrimination on the basis of their color, caste, creed, religion, nothing of that sort. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people, people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. Now, this day had been possible only because most of the people of his tribe had sacrificed their lives in order to give equal rights to the black people also. So, it was the suffering and the courage of those people who had died, thousands of the people of his tribe, that this day had come. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. So that day he felt that as if still there are many more days to do, lots of work, and I am simply a sum total of all those patriots who had sacrificed their lives and given up their lives before him. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. So he said that that long and noble line of the people had ended, and now it was him who had to start with other sacrifices for his tribe, who had to struggle more to give freedom to his people. But he was paining from inside that he could not thank them properly personally, and nor those people could see how their sacrifices had borne out, had turned out, and what fruits it had given out. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. But the policy of apartheid, in which differentiation was there between the white and the black people, that wound was there still in their heart. It could not be, you can say, repaired. That wound was quite deep inside. So he says that it will take a lot of years to recover from that wound, if not many generations. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sissoulus, the Chief Luthulus, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobukwe's of our time. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. So he says that decades of such brutality, such inhuman behavior that the black people had suffered at the hand of the white people had given birth to various great people of his tribe, and some of them were named as Walter Sissoulus, Oliver Tambos, Yusuf Dadus, Chief Luthulis, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Soboquest of his time. And he says that they were the people of such courage and wisdom and generosity that no other generation can produce such type of people. Perhaps it requires such depths of oppression to create such heights of character. He says that maybe because if such type of oppression or the suffering again occurs, then only such type of great people are born again to liberate their own tribe from such oppression. My country is rich in minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. So he says that my country is rich. Why? Because it has got various minerals and gems which are beneath the earth. But the real gem or the real treasure of his country is its people, who are truer, finer, and they are just like pure diamonds. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. So he says that from these comrades whom I have named, I have learned how to develop courage in me. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. So he says that I have seen many men and women who have risked and given their lives in order to liberate their own people. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. He says that when many men are tortured, they are tortured in such a way, but still they remain resilient. They do not break down before that torture. And that defies the imagination that how strong those people were who used to suffer, who used to be tortured, but still they did not break in front of the enemies. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. So he says that the first lesson that I learned was that courage does not mean to have no fear, but it means to have a victory over it, victory over the sufferings. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So brave man का मतलब ये नहीं होता है that you have to feel you are not afraid. But if you have a fear, how to overcome that fear is the definition of the brave man in the perception of Nelson Mandela. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. So he says that no one is born in such a way that they have to, right from the beginning when they are children, they have to start hating people on the basis of their color, caste, religion, or their background. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love becomes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. So he says that people have to learn to hate, but love automatically develops in heart, and it is more stronger than the feeling of hatred. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. So he says that when there was a very severe time, grimmest मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा torture वाला जो दिन था, तो they were pushed to the limits means कि वो लोग they were tortured in such a way that they could not bear the pain. Still, when they were crying with pain, he could see that one of the guards was touched with humanity. Although that was for a second, but it made him assure that humanity is a feeling that can never be extinguished. It may be hidden, but it can never be extinguished. So the goodness of a man is a flame which is always there in the hearts of all human beings, and it can never be extinguished, though people may hide it under their strict and severe behavior. In life, every man has twin obligations: obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So he says that a man always has two obligations: one towards his family, that is wife, father, mother, children, and one towards his own men, his own country, his tribe. In civil and humane society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his inclinations.